We're just so excited to be back. Last week we got just some overwhelming good news about last week, and we just wanted to get back on here this week. So we're excited about what's going on between us, what's happening, and if you have any questions throughout this segment, just post them in the comments and we'll try to get to them. But this week, we just want to welcome back the people that were with us last week.
Yes.
And if this is your first time, we want to welcome you to Let's Talk with krisandkeish. After last week, we decided that we wanted to dig deeper into the thought process. Just how we can control our mind, and not only that, why we are not victims of our thoughts. You ready, Christy?
I'm ready.
Let's talk.
Mama Eileen is on. I just have to say hi. So a lot of the feedback, we kind of started the conversation. I'll try to check all the cameras again, but we kind of started the conversation last week when we were talking about how to have a breakthrough. It is really has to deal with like the mindset and being able to control and then being able to envision and all these good things, right? Well, afterwards, we were both flooded with so many comments and emails, messages, personal handwritten letters.
Yes.
Just with everybody saying
that was crazy.
It was amazing.
That was crazy.
It was amazing. Seriously, it floored us. We were so humbled. We were just in awe. But the thing that we kept seeing that we were getting the most feedback about is how it enlightened just being able to control their thoughts or their mind. And it's like, I've been trying to learn how to do this. Right. And so we thought, okay, we have got to dig into it. Digging in.
So the reason that I think, Christy, that we're having a problem with the thoughts is that we don't even understand that we have the power to control our thoughts. We don't even understand that it's even an option for us to control our thoughts.
Yeah.
Because of ways we were raised and the thoughts that have been planted since kids, or the thoughts that's been planted since birth, they all reflect in our daily living right now.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing, is because when you think about how do we become, because saying I'm a victim of my thought life or you're a victim of your thought life, that sounds so almost irrational. How do you choose to become a victim? But the thing is, we do choose that. Mm-hmm. We have the power to choose. God gave us the ability to feel, to choose, to sense. But part of what has happened to all of us is, as we grow up, our environment naturally starts to take effect. It starts to affect our mind. We start to believe what we see, what we hear. We pick up beliefs from our family.
Yes.
And that's how it's easy to become a victim. One of the things that Nikisha and I talk about a lot is just the way we were raised and different beliefs that we were raised with. And I mean, there's nothing against our family. I mean, we were both raised with great, wonderful families, but it's mentality that's passed down from generation to generation.
And generational curses are a problem. And what we have to understand is those things build strongholds. Yes. And strongholds are what hold our thoughts in bondage, in captivity. So with that, we carry them through life. Yes. We carry them with us, and it begins to, pour out in our living. The things that we're thinking, the things that we're feeling, because we feel like it's normal. Right. And they begin to pour out in our living. And we have to understand that if we begin to change our thoughts, if we begin to think about the things that we're thinking about, if that makes sense. Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we begin to think hard about the things that we're thinking about, then we can begin to control and captivate those thoughts that are out there. Because we have the power to do it. Yes, I'm going to keep stressing that we have the power to do it, because I'm living it right now. Yes. This is something that we've studied. This is something that we've experienced. Christy, if you can tell them a little bit about the brain and how, we've been going over the mind and the brain and just how it it links up with the Bible and how it plays a major part in our life right now. So
yeah. So this is the part that I started sharing some of it last week. It becomes almost mind-blowing to me, is because I started the journey of studying the brain just to understand certain ailments such as PTSD and other things, anxiety. And then it led me into understanding really this whole world of neuroscience and this newer world of neuroplasticity. And that's really what it's talking about, is the brain is able to change. It's able to mold. So you guys, for years up into the 80s, science believed that your brain is it. Once it's formed, it cannot be changed. So all the way up into the 80s, people who had suffered from mental illnesses or traumatic brain injuries, I mean, it was just, you were helpless. They were sorry, there's nothing we can do. Science, your brain, that's what it is now. And then in the 80s, it came along where we have different researches. The one I absolutely love, Dr. Carolina Leaf, and they started saying, hey, wait a minute. This is where I love how God only is showing science how much of his glory and power he has over us, just a little bit at a time, right? So as soon as science said the brain can't be changed, it is what it is, God said, boom, nope, let me drop this on you. And he showed the difference in science between the brain and the mind. Okay, so let's talk about that. So the brain, as it's forming, I need to buy a brain model. I almost went on Amazon and bought it for tonight too, but I'm gonna buy one. But the brain, when it's forming, right? It's forming. We've got the big connecting thing, right? It forms, and then the last part to form is our prefrontal cortex, y'all. This is our mind. This is the last part. This is the gift that God gave us. So that mind is where our thinking, sensing, and feeling come from, okay? The mind controls the brain. So what does this mean? This means when we are not controlling the thoughts that we are allowing in, we are programming and sending incorrect wiring to the brain. So we are wiring in toxic thoughts. This is how we become a victim of our thought life. It's because we keep allowing the toxic thoughts to come in. Now, these toxic thoughts, I mean, they could be from things that we talked about.
Like you said, from when you're young. When you're young, if your parents, me and Christy was talking, and she said, she was always told to be quiet. Be quiet. It's not your time to talk. You have to respect adults. Be quiet. Be quiet. So when she got into the corporate world, she was just quiet. So it was hard for her to speak out. Like with this live thing, it's hard for her to speak out because all of her life she was told to be quiet. It's not your place. As a woman, you be quiet. The man speaks. The man does this. And that's just like in anything. Like, the woman is supposed to cook. It's all of these thoughts that we were raised thinking when it's not true. So as we begin to process these things, like you said, and it goes back to the brain, we believe it. And then we begin to live it out. And the Bible says in Proverbs that as a man thinks in his heart, the man is. So therefore, the way we're thinking, we begin to live this thing. So if we can grab captive these thoughts and then not be victimized by our thoughts, keep living in this old thought habit, and we begin to catch these thoughts, then we can begin to change the way we're living, and we can live a prosperous life, which God intended for us to live anyway. And me and Christy were also talking, because like I said to y'all last week, we were talking about the detox, and detoxing your brain. And I just felt like, I don't need to detox. I'm not a negative person. But what we came to find out, like I told y'all, this is something we're experiencing. This is something we're living right now, that I internalize things. I push those things deep down inside, and I think that I'm forgetting them, but all I did was train my brain to forget certain things that happened to me. But at the end of the day, it's still there. So because it's still there, that's why I'm acting the way that I'm acting in my life situations right now, when I'm not understanding, why am I not doing what it is that I know I should be doing and I want to do, is because I internalized those things that happened to me, and they're still stuck in the back of my head, and my brain is causing my mind to do the acting. So that's what happens. Is so when you have an experience or somebody spoke something into you or over you. So going back to the example that Nikisha was giving about me, it wasn't like I was being told, like, be quiet, sit down, shut up. It was when I would speak,
because of whatever gift God gave me, I speak naturally with more authority and power. I don't know, but boldness. Yeah, boldness, and it's not on purpose. I don't do it on purpose. But I think that when I was growing up, sometimes in classes or even in college or whatever, I mean, like I was stifled. That voice was stifled. If people felt intimidated by me, they would stifle it. And so then I, over the years, started thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't be talking as much, and maybe I should. And I found myself in meetings where sometimes I was biting my tongue, and then finally I was like, no, this is not who I am. I'm not going to bite my tongue, and I just went for it. But I didn't address the thought. So what happens is, just like Nikisha was saying, is you may think that you are over whatever happened to you when you were 4 years old or 6 years old, or whatever somebody said to you. You may not even remember what that is. But what happened was you wired it in, and now once it gets wired into the brain, if we don't address it and we allow those toxic thoughts to sit there, you guys, it grows like wildfire in our brain. And then last week, how we were talking about how it starts sending all these like miscues or misfirings. That's what happens, is because you have all these wildfires of toxic thoughts. And so then when the brain needs to react based on the situation that you're in, it's going to call upon whatever the mind has programmed in. And so we've got to learn how to start capturing those thoughts right up here in the mind before we allow it to get into the brain. But I'm telling you, we wired in these bad thoughts. You guys, we will wire them out. And we are proof that we can wire it out. But there is a process. And so that's, we said, like, we got to break it off. We're going to show you guys how to break it off. The way you break it off is as soon as you have a thought. And this is where it's like what we were talking about last week, being consistent and being intentional. This is where it's like make or break. Like you have to be consistent. You have to be intentional with this. So if I have a thought that comes into my head and I'm thinking like, oh my God, that just pissed me off. I've got to be able to figure out where did that come from? Why am I getting so irritated by this? And I've got to bring it into the light. Now, this is where I also like, it's so beautiful because this is where science and God, the Bible, come together as well, right? So science tells us that our brain can be changed. It's plastic, right? So think of the brain as being malleable. God says that we have the ability to renew our mind. It's in 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians. We have the ability to renew our mind. We renew our mind by bringing things into the light. When we bring it into the light, scientifically speaking, what happens? Well, when you bring a product, a substance into the light, it starts to like heat up, and it starts to become plastic. It starts to become malleable. You can mold it. You can change it. You guys, that's what we're doing with our thoughts. When we bring it into the light, i.e. God's light is what I believe. But when we bring it into the light, then we can start to mold it. And put it back. It becomes plastic. We can start to say, you know what? This is not a toxic thought. Let me give you all an example. Okay. So when I was first going through my 21-day brain detox journey, my very first one, I had just a lot of negativity in me. And I was like, why do I have, like, on the surface, nobody would have known because I've never projected the negativity outward. But internally, it was a different story. So for years, everybody would call me Susie Sunshine at work, or you're always so happy, you're always so smiling. And I am. But inside, I was very negative and I would worry a lot. And so as I was going through this process, I was like, where does this come from? And what I found was that, you know, when I was younger and my parents went through a divorce, it was very traumatic in the family, and it created a lot of negativity. And my mom did the most amazing job she could have done with the situation she was dealt. And so this is no judgment on her or anybody else, but I grew up with that mindset. I grew up of always expecting the worst, anticipating like everything was going to be the end of the world.
And with that, when you're already expecting the worst is going to happen to you. You're attracting the worst. As your mind thinks the worst, why would this happen to you? Because in your mind, you're already thinking the worst is going to happen. And what you're saying, that it made me think about, the Bible also says that you can tell a tree by his fruits. So for someone who's negative, a negative person, you can tell their thoughts when you see them.
Yeah.
You can tell their thoughts. If they're always mean mugging, if they're always upset, angry about something, it's because of their thoughts. Their thoughts is always negative. And we have to begin to change that. I wanted to also mention, don't begin to beat yourself up and condemn yourself when you have a bad thought, because this is a process. This takes time. This takes work. This takes energy. But we have to do it. We have to take the steps forward to correcting these thoughts, to captivating these thoughts and flipping them around. I'm telling y'all, it just shows that changing your thought process and having a positive way of living can change your life. It can change your life forever. People might look at me right now and say, man, that girl is doing her thing. You know, that girl is just doing this and that. And it's because I begin to change the way I'm thinking. I'm not held down to my circumstances. You know, the way I was raised, I don't have to be stuck back in that culture the way I was raised. I can do more. I can do above and beyond all things, because God is my Father. I have to throw that in there. He is my Father, and this is what He wants for me. But it does start with work. God can't do it all.
Yeah.
We have to put this thing into play. We have to be disciplined about it, and we have to understand that it's not going to happen overnight. And we can't get discouraged when we feel like, oh, I went through with it. Because I can tell y'all, just in this year, I done had some negative thoughts that I allowed to play through. Like, I allowed them to cause me to feel a certain kind of way. And then after the negative thought then set, then I decided to say, you know what, negative thought, you're not going to live here, and but we can catch those thoughts before they even begin the process.
Yeah. The thing I was going to say about this is, Socrates said that an unexamined life is a life that's not worth living.
Okay.
Socrates said that, you guys. What he was talking about is when we allow things to happen in our lives and we choose, it is a choice. We choose not to address them and how our mind is processing them, then it's not even a life worth living, because we have literally become a victim to our thought life.
Yes.
Science shows us that for each thought that we have, it actually creates matter in our brain. So it's creating protein structures in our brain, each thought. And so when we have these protein structures, so it starts in our mind, we're supposed to go through the process of saying, okay, I need to think this out. I need to sense it. I need to use my judgment. I'm choosing like how I'm going to process this information. And then at that point, it goes into my brain. It becomes like a little protein, like a little mushroom cap, right? It's this protein that I built. Well, I now have the option, the choice to decide, am I going to allow this little mushroom cap of protein to keep growing?
Right.
So if I'm only thinking like, okay, I'm here, daily affirmations, like I am good enough and I'm going to get this job and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But then I've got my little protein mushroom cap saying, no, you're not.
Right, that's
you're
truly
stupid.
not believing.
That's not for you. That's not for people like you. No, you don't have the right money. You don't have the right education. Nope, that's not for you. Then guess what? Now I'm doing. Now my protein mushroom is growing, and then as soon as I let it grow big enough, it's going to start spreading, and it becomes wildfires.
Right.
That is why we have to learn how to capture it. Right. And God gave us this gift, this ability to think, sense, choose, all of this, but it's all unique to me, to Nikisha, to you, to every single one of us. It's this unique way of thinking. Right. And it's how our mind is processing it. Yes. And so an example of that is like, let's say we go on a roller coaster ride. I freaking love roller coasters. The crazier, the better.
Yes. Take my heart away.
Yes. Okay. So we need to go.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay. Fine. Like the craziest. We'll go live and share that. But I love them. Okay. But I could go on a roller coaster with maybe my little sister who does not like roller coasters. Right. You guys, we're going to go on it. We're going to have the same exact ride. Right. We're going to be on the same exact time. We're going to have the same exact experience. But guess what's going to happen? Our minds are going to totally process those two events completely different.
Right.
That is the gift that God gave us. I'm going to share one more example about that. My husband, totally calling him, but my husband received a text from a friend of his, a good friend of his, and the way he read it, he read it
as always taken out of context.
Yeah, but the way his mind processed what he read, almost he was just like, wait, no, this won't even work, and he was about to dismiss it, and he showed it to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly what I was thinking. And I kind of added a level of detail, and for him it was like his mind switched on, and he was like, wow, I can't believe
it like that. Right.
And that's another reason why we need to be always in communion with people. Mm-hmm. But that is, again, how our minds process the information. And so when you have these thoughts, right? And so as you sit down, and the best way, just to break this off, right. It's almost too overwhelming, you guys, to sit there and say, like, okay, I need to tackle all this. I need to lose weight.
You can't do it at one time. Yeah. I mean, you gotta break it up into small pieces. You have to, because if
one thing at a time.
It has to be, because if not, you're gonna get overwhelmed. You're gonna get discouraged, and then you're gonna be thinking more negative thoughts. I wanted to say that too. It can get discouraging, because if it's a scientific fact that over 60,000 thoughts cross our mind a day. You probably don't even think that much, but it's because those thoughts are not even important. So
60,000? 60, what'd you say?
60,000. Yes.
60,000 thoughts a day?
Yes.
And I'll tell y'all that the brain is actually processing, or is it 4.5 billion actions per second?
Yes.
So tell me that our brains are not on overload.
Right. And then when you was talking about the little mushrooms, I'm just thinking about 60,000 of them going back there and just going up your head. That's what I'm thinking about, because if we don't capture these things and we don't begin to move, and we're only passionate about this because this is where we're at right now. We're studying this, and we're like, God, if we would have knew this years ago, we'll be lit right now. We'll be all the way lit. I mean, we lit, but we'll be all the way lit. But the thing about it is, we have to begin to understand our bodies. And in order to understand our bodies, it starts in the mind. I said it last week. Where the mind goes, the body flows. Mm-hmm. Anything we think, we begin to live it out. And even when it comes down to the thinking, I wanted to put this out there too. Once it's in your mind, even if it's something negative, speak the positive. Because the thoughts, it goes along with what we're speaking. And if we're speaking life into our situations, the Bible says also, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And if I can get y'all to begin to speak life on certain situations, I promise y'all, those situations will raise from the dead and they will live. Mm-hmm. So, we have to begin to think about what we're thinking about. Mm-hmm. And then we have to begin to speak what it is that we want to see. We have to begin to speak it, because if we begin to speak it, we can begin to think on what we're speaking. Now we're changing our whole thought process. And now I'm steady speaking, oh, I'm about to get this job. I'm about to get this job. I'm about to get this job. Now I'm thinking, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to get this job. And then the next thing you know, I got the job, and I'm doing what it is. And it's really that simple. Yeah. It's that simple. I spoke this lady into my life. And I began to believe that I was going to meet someone that I can do something big with. And this is something big to us, because at the end of the day, we're able to reach people and teach people the things that we're learning right now. And this stuff is beneficial. It's not nothing that we're just, playing around with, or just trying to dangle some old, like you say, hocus pocus stuff over your head. This is real life. People study this. Yeah. And because people are studying it, now we're studying it. This is something she made me she's like, no, the brain. I'm not gonna do that.
Oh, you're not gonna do my fake talk again?
So look, the brain. She's telling me all of these things about the brain, and I'm like, man, I want to know, how does it work? Not only how does it work, how it ties into the Bible. And God has been blowing our mind tremendously on science, and how he's coming back to prove himself that I created all of this. Yeah. I created all of this. Like, if I can give an example like Christy did, I was sitting in, I'm going to orientation because right now I'm about to get my master's in biblical science, biblical studies, and also leadership. So in me doing that, I'm just sitting in the class, and I'm like, okay, well, you get the syllabus, and everything, every class, any class it could be, math, psychology, whatever it is tied into the Bible. They link it to, every assignment has a scripture with it.
Oh, wow.
That is beautiful to me. And right now I feel like it's just what I need in this time, because this is something I prayed about. This is something I thought about. I said, God, I want to dig deeper into your word. And I know myself, I can't do it on my own. So therefore, he's laying out the map for me. The energies, whatever you want to believe in, like you said last week, if you don't believe in God, that's fine. But there's something out there. There's energies. There's something that can give you back what you put into the atmosphere. So you have to begin to think it. You have to begin to speak it. And then you have to move on it.
Yeah.
You have to move on it. The action put to the thoughts is what's going to take you to the next level.
Yeah. And, just like what we were talking about when I was saying about the science has shown that every thought we have, it creates matter. It's creating the protein in our brain. And so we have to choose what we are allowing to be created in our brain. And this whole process of, capturing thoughts, yes, it's going to sound freaking amazing right now. And you're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get off and I'm going to do what they said.
Right.
You can't. You've got to realize, it's going to be a process. This has taken me a long time to finally get to the place to where I immediately am capturing it.
Right.
But I'm going to tell y'all, this is how you start, okay? Find one thing.
Yes.
The first thing I told y'all I worked on was this negativity that I just always felt inside. Nobody could see it, but I felt it and I wanted it gone. So I dug into that. The next thing was, I have this issue with money, you guys. It wasn't a fear of money. It was just this issue with money because I always had this poor man's mentality.
Yes.
I wasn't working enough and I had to work harder. And literally when I was working in the corporate management world, I would work myself to the bone. I was working 60 hours a week and I'd come home and I was still on my laptop, still on my BlackBerry. That wasn't my job's fault. That was my fault. That was my poor man's mentality. Yes. I jumped into a multi-level marketing company. Did freaking amazing. You guys, I worked even more. That was my poor man's mentality. I was working 80 hours a week because now I was working from home. And it was if you're not working enough, that money's going to go away. Well, what happened?
And that's fear.
Yes, it is fear. So I had to figure out where that was coming from. And so I was like, why? Why do I have this? And then what the crazy thing is then when I got to the place where I was making 6 figures a month or not a month, but over 6 figures a year. It was it was crazy money. It was stupid money. It was, I tell everybody.
I know.
I know. Okay. So she said it last time. At one point in my career, I was making $30,000 a month. But the thing about that was, you guys, when I was making that money, I gave it all away. Yes. I literally was giving it away anywhere I could.
No respect.
Anywhere I could. And the thing is my intention, I thought, was it was coming from my heart. But no, you know what it showed me when I went through this process? It showed me I was giving it away because I didn't think I was worthy of it. Mm-hmm. I didn't think I was worthy of earning that much money. So I was just I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I had to learn how to get in and figure out where is this coming from? Right. Because I don't want to have that money again and not be a good steward of it. Yes. And I also don't want to ever fear it again. Right.
And that's the thing. Fear is another reason why the negative thoughts is there. Fear. Yes. Since some people are told when they're kids, you'll never get that job. Or like you said last week, my son kept telling me, I'm going to be a football player. I'm going to be a football player. And I'm like, you will want to get in those books. You will want to get in those books because playing football is not, football is not promised to you. But at the end of the day, parents did that to their kids. They made them feel like you can't do that. You're not smart enough to do that. Or not even that you're not smart enough. That's not the route for you. That's not the route for you. So in them telling them that, then they begin to believe, well, I can't have that job as a CEO.
And you know what? And I'll say, even as a parent now, because like I said last week too, I even did that. That's cute, son. What's your backup plan? But it's the reason we do that innately, and you've probably done it to your kids or friends or
to your
spouse or to yourself.
Yes,
it's a protection. That's how we protect.
Because you don't want to be disappointed.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, you got to fall down to get back up. Yeah. And that's what it is. If you're not putting in the work, you have to continuously put in the work and stop. Somebody just said it on there. Chantel just said it's self-sabotage. Yep. That's what it is. So we have to stop doing this to ourselves, because if we begin to feel and move on because it's just so important. It's so important that I think we should make it a priority to think positively. Positive thinking should be a priority in your life. Like it will change your life tremendously if you just begin to think positively. I'm gonna just stop right there because I just think
I'll add how that could happen, right? So like you go outside and it's raining and you're like, oh shit, crap, like I gotta go, like whatever. Thank you God for this rain. We needed this. Thank you God.
It's a lot of ways that we can change things. Like like one day I'm driving down the street. It's during Christmas time, it was cold out here. And I'm in this positive bubble, y'all. Ain't nothing getting me out of my little positive bubble. That's why I'm at. And I'm driving down the street and Big Kevin hit the window. He hit the window, roll it all the way down to throw something out of the window. Next thing you know, when he went to roll it back up, it didn't come back up.
Oh no!
It didn't come back up. And I promise y'all, it was freezing cold out there. And I just drove like, Jesus, you must want us to ride and you must want us to feel the breeze. I wasn't going negative at all. And guess what? Soon I just kept praying. Kevin was mad and I'm just like, well, he just going to have to be over there mad by himself. Because right now, God is having his window down for a reason. There's some reason that this window is down. And next thing you know, we pull up to wherever we at. I go in, the window's still down, come back out. I prayed while I was in the store, came back out, and the window went up. It makes no sense for us to get caught up and negative things that happen for us. If we begin to flip it and try to bring some positive out of it, it will come into play. The positivity will, if we think positive, we'll live positive. A negative person will never live a positive life. Will never.
Yeah.
Our thoughts, it dictates our life. The way we think, the way we move, it dictates our life. Look at Kevin laughing on there. He knows it's true.
He remembers that time. Mm-hmm. Something that just really hit me is when you were talking about fear. And fear is truly the basis for all of our toxic thinking. It is stemming from somewhere. And so part of what you need to do to learn how to capture where toxic thinking comes from is as you're digging in and you're asking yourself like, what, why? And the thing is like, as you're going through this, like, let me just share with y'all what I do. So in the morning, if I have my quiet time, like for 10 minutes, I am sitting there focusing on that thought, right? Yeah. So when it was the negativity or when it was the money thing or whatever, it's like, okay, God, show me what it is. Like, where is this coming from? Like, I visually want to see it in my brain. And you guys, I would almost envision, like I could point to where it was. Oh, this is where it started and this is where it branched out. Like crazy stuff. But for me, if I could envision it, then I could start to see like, no, that's how I'm destroying it. I'm seeing it where it is and I am starting to like bring it into the light and tear that shit down. Yeah. So the fear, right? I want to say something about that. Innately, we are born with two fears. Innately, we are born with only two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. You guys, every other fear that we have is a learned fear. We've learned that. Mm-hmm. So somewhere in our environment, somebody told us one time, don't climb on that high thing because you could fall and break your arm and cut open your head and run to the hospital, like all that crap that we always tell our kids, right? Well, then maybe that put the fear in you and now you don't like heights. Right. Now you're afraid of heights. So this is where when we said it's like invaluable, if you can learn how to do this is why. Is because all of us are being held back by our toxic thought life.
And it's a learned behavior.
And
it's learned.
It is.
So if it's learned, it's just like something is taught. It can be untaught. It could be just like you forget the math that you learned in 3rd grade. It's something that you've learned and you can forget it. Or you can relearn the proper way to think. And now your thought process is different. So like you said with the fear thing, the opposite of fear is faith. And I decided to live on faith. So I know a lot of people don't know how to do that. And I know a lot of people don't know how to embrace it. But fear is just a terrible place to be, and that starts in your brain. So
I want to stop here and see you looking at all the cameras. I want to see if there's any questions for us. How do you train your brain to do that? How do you train your brain to do that?
Well, she's different. Let me tell you, she's for a lot of people. We don't have the capability to see things like visualize things to see, because I don't have visions. I see certain things, but it's not as vivid. She has a vision where that's because she trains herself, and I think it's just a gift from God where she get a clear picture. She can get a clear picture, but it's not everybody don't get that clear picture.
But everybody has the choice too.
Yeah,
that's what's
true.
crazy.
That's true.
It's because I didn't always have that.
That's true.
I didn't always have that. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can. She want to know how do you do it?
Oh,
how you do it?
How you do it?
Because I don't do it.
I mean, what are you saying when you said how do you train your brain to do that?
This what you was. I'm gonna tell you because I was paying attention when you were saying I do like this and I picture right where it's at.
Yeah.
Right where the vision. So she want to know how she can see. Right,
I'm going to be completely honest with you, and if some of you guys don't believe in God, you can kind of replace all this. I literally get on my knees and I have asked, Holy Spirit, show me where this is in my brain. Holy Spirit, show me where this started from. I don't sit down every day and do like all these questions at once. It's a little bit at a time. The first day is show me where this is in my brain. And then once I can figure out, it's not like I literally know, it's like I just start to envision what my brain looks like and where this little protein cap started. And that's my vision now for the next 21 days. I'm going in there and I'm looking at that protein cap and I'm like, how can I dissolve it? But it's every day I'm getting in there and trying to understand a little bit more about why that wired in. And it's got to be 21 days. Right. It's got to be 21 days for the one thing.
It becomes a habit.
Yes.
And you can capture it and you can move on. Like you can figure it out. It takes time. It's not going to just happen in a week. So you need a set time to focus on that one thing. Now for me, I don't want to see my brain. I don't want to see the little mushroom caps that she's talking about. I just think all of that is very creepy. But at the end of the day, I know that I have the power to change my life. And right now, everyone gets to a point where they're just like, I'm tired of living this way. I'm tired of things being the same. So if you're tired, I'm telling you where you start. You start with your thoughts. We have to stop victimizing ourselves and thinking that we have to continue to live the way we're living. And it's only because of the way we're thinking. So if we change the way we're thinking, we can change the way we live. And I just have to keep putting that out there because I've changed my thought process. Mm-hmm. Some things I'm still working on, but I've changed my thought process. And Christy, my life has begun to change. And we've only known each other since November. Mm-hmm. But you can see a clear change. Just like with me, I can see a clear change in you. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we've only been knowing each other since November. But because we've been at this thing and we've been studying this and we've been trying to figure it out so that we can help others do the same, because we could have been selfish. We could have been selfish and said, we could figure out this brain thing on our own and we can take off on our own. But at the end of the day, this is a gift that God allowed us to discover. So now let us give it to someone else so that their life can flourish, so that they can. I just come from people feeling like we just have to be stuck in this same way. That's where I come from. So at the end of the day, for me to be here and allow them to believe, like show them, if you believe this way, it could get you. That's my whole thing. Yeah. If you can believe this is where it could, I want my life to be living proof, and I want to give that to you so that you can move forward and your life can take off and you can go to the next level.
There was something that I was debating even right before I jumped on. I was telling Joe about sharing, because when I heard this statistic, I was at first really pissed off and irritated by it. And then I was like, well, I don't want to share this with anybody else because I don't want anybody else to think that I'm dismissing what they're going through. Mm-hmm. But it's the truth. So the statistic is that 75% of mental illnesses and ailments that we have are because of the state of the mind.
It is.
75%. So while this is where I'm really stepping out on the limb here, I am not a doctor, okay? I am not a doctor. I swear I've done probably as much research as some when it comes to the brain. I'm not a doctor. But all I think is all of the people who are on medications for all these mental illnesses, and all we're doing is we're putting Band-Aids on these problems. we're throwing money into prescriptions, and we're putting Band-Aids, and the reason none of us are getting better, and we have to increase the dosage, or we have to switch the medication, is because they're not going to work. It's not going to fix it. You have to figure out where it is in your brain. You have to figure out where it came from. And even if you've been through something that has been traumatic, and science, like I have images that I could even post to show you guys when you've gone through traumatic injury, there's two major structures in your brain that actually change. Like chemically, you can see the structure of your brain change. But again, our brains are plastic, and we can mold them, and we can change them. And so, this is...
And that's all the medicine does. All the medicine does is throw off the chemical imbalance. Like, it just messes with the chemicals in your brain. It doesn't really help. And I'm one, because that's what they like to tell you. As soon as you go through depression, or if you have any issue that you're going through, take these pills and see if they'll help you. Those pills don't work.
Yeah.
And it's not to knock anyone who's taking pills.
No, and that's what I was
it's just to say that we have enough of power within ourselves to change our mental state.
Yeah.
We have that power. Nobody has that power over us. We have the power to change our mental state. Not a doctor, not a psychiatrist. They're good to talk to. I mean, they're very helpful when it's time to talk, but you're still gonna you wonder why people who's taking medicine is still going through depression. Because what is it curing?
Yeah, and I feel like now I'm feeling moved to share with you guys very openly that I've been through the mental stuff.
Me too.
I've been through the anxiety. I've been through the depression. I had postpartum depression.
I got the pills in my drawer.
Yeah, I was given all these kind of different medications. I suffer from secondary PTSD from living with my husband who had enraged PTSD, and then we helped get him set up on the track to get him fixed. And then bam, I almost lost my life twice, back to back, 2 fluke things. 2013, a pulmonary embolism. 11 months later, I'm in the hospital down to 2 pints of blood for something else. I mean, so then now I've experienced PTSD because now I get triggers. Now I get flashbacks. Now crazy things happen in the brain. So I get people's mental illness. That's why I went and became a student of it, of the brain and the mind, is because I didn't like not being in control
of your own self.
I didn't like
that's what they do. It just takes control of you.
Yeah.
We don't know. You don't have to. You don't have to allow it. It don't mean nobody have to stop taking their medicine. I see somebody say they stopped taking their meds 2 weeks ago. Now you just have to gain power yourself. You have to, and this is not to stop anyone. It's just to say that we have the power to control our lives, and the way we control our lives is through our thoughts. I think we talked a lot. I think we did well. If anybody has any questions, we're willing to answer. If you're not willing to post them under here, you can message either one of us, because we have a whole bunch of lives up. Our email. Look how she.
My brain techniques. I know. Thank you. I'm glad they're finally coming to use.
And I had to tell her that because for the longest, like, she does all of this studying, she does all of this research, and she's just like, it's not enough. I still have to dig more into it, more. And she's like, because I can't bring. And I'm like, yes, you can. Stop letting whatever happened to you make you feel like you can't bring this stuff out into the light, because you've helped me. You've helped me begin to study. You helped me to begin to do things that I've never done before, and we can do the same for somebody else. So stop holding your gifts to yourself, girl. Let them out. Let people know about your brain.
And you know what?
Ever since
you said, and when you told me that a few weeks ago, that was the next thing I started working on. I was like, I got to break that off because I don't know where that comes from. But anyways, okay, so we talked about how it happens, right? So we're raised with these beliefs where we have experiences that we've been through. We've had people speak things into us. And so then we understand now how they get wired in. Right. And you understand, hopefully now, the difference between the brain and the mind. And keep in mind that the mind controls the brain.
Yes.
So we have that choice. what we allow to come into our brain must be processed, okay? We have become a society, we're like an easy button society. Think about it. Everything we have is automated now, right? Like literally we can push a button. I even have a little vacuum cleaner now that can robot, and does everything. That's what society we are. We are an easy button society. And what that has done to us is it allowed our brains to just freaking go on automatic. Our minds go on automatic, and we just allow information to come in. 4.5 billion actions per second. Are you kidding me? If we are not controlling that, that's why we're becoming toxic. So guys, thanks for jumping on. Shoot, we took 45 minutes. I was trying to keep it at 30, but y'all stayed on, so it must be a good sign. But you guys, thank y'all so much. Keep the comments coming, and we'll be back at you next week.
Yes.
All right. Have a good night.
Yes.